Hi there, I'm Arsham, and I'm an aspiring game developer, and I've decided to make a whole devlog series about all the problems and successes of making a game by yourself. So stick around for my journey. A few weeks ago, I started thinking of a game concept. This is a top-down 2D game which is all about the life of a programmer. But before I started the process of thinking deeper about the game and its mechanics, I just wanted to set some goals for myself during this project. My first goal was to have the experience of making a whole game from scratch, including the art, music, sound effects, and all-around mechanics. And my second goal was to learn as much about game development as I possibly could during this project. And lastly, my goal is to publish this game anywhere that I can. So now that I thought about my goals for this project, it was time to think about the actual game. I basically started by writing down some crazy ideas that would be possible, but not yet since I just started the project. And this helped me because once I created the foundation of my game, I can come back to these ideas and start thinking about implementing them. In my opinion, this is the most frustrating and best part of making a game. The reason it's kind of frustrating is because we have a lot of ideas that we would love to implement, but we can't just yet because we just started. So that's why I recommend you get these crazy and amazing feature ideas onto paper first, so you know where you're crossing the line of making the first version of the game a bit too complicated. Then once these crazy ideas about the general game were shot onto a piece of paper, I moved on to the motif of the game. And a motif is important because you wouldn't have a really good understanding of your game without having a general outline of how the game works. So I started by writing the fundamentals and anything that would just give a strong backbone to the game. One of my main focuses for this game is to teach younger people about programming, so I do want to implement some quizzes about the path they chose, whether it's game development, web development, or any other field in programming. But at this point, I wasn't really sure how to implement that into the game. So I wrote it down as an important feature to add, but saved it for later to think about. Until this point, I haven't really given any examples of how this game would be like by the end. Well, actually I've thought about this game for a while now, but not specifically in this genre. I've always thought about it as a clicker game, like the game called Vlogger Go Viral, which is a clicker game which basically lets you run your own YouTube channel on a virtual environment where you have to stay on trend with your videos to have a successful YouTube channel. So actually I did a bit more research about what could be more interesting than a clicker game. So I started watching some YouTube videos to see if there are any games similar to the one I want to make. And lo and behold, I found a game which actually gave me some feature ideas that could help my game. The game that I took inspiration from is Streamer Life Simulator, which lets you experience the life of a streamer from the beginning, like getting a job and buying your first pieces of equipment. And there were also more features that I noted down, which could also be good. So the day after I started thinking of the game, I immediately opened a to-do list app, and I started making some column headings that would be important for this process. Then I started adding the tasks that I need to do. You can also write these down on a piece of paper, but the satisfaction of dragging a task from the to-do column to the done column is much more. And once I wrote these tasks, I opened Unity and created a new project. So I started by creating some temporary assets for my game, which also made me learn a bit about pixel art for the future art I was going to need for my game. And once I finished creating the assets, I needed to know how to implement tile maps into my game. So I basically just opened YouTube and searched how to use tile maps, and hoped there was a tutorial about it. And not to my surprise, there was an amazing tutorial which was really easy. So I started following the tutorial and I just made a simple tile map. After I implemented the tile map, I just took a random character and made basic movements without any animations. Now that I had learned the basics of tile maps, I decided to draw the map of the game, so I have a general idea where things should go. And to me, this was the hardest process, because I'm not the best at making maps in general, so this was a really good experience. A trick that worked for me is just going outside in nature and seeing how things are formed, like roads and random patterns of trees and grass. Once I finished drawing it out, I started creating the whole map, and the software I normally use for creating pixelated assets is Aseprite, which you do have to pay for, but for me it's one of the most complete pixel art tools out there. The first time I created assets for the mockup, I made a mistake of not working with a set amount of colors. So I just searched color palettes for pixel art and it gave me an amazing website which I used to find color palettes. And all of the things I mentioned in this video like softwares and games are in the description below for you guys to check out. Another thing I had to keep in mind is how many colors I want to use for my game. I decided to use 16 colors because it gives you options for shading as well. If you like the color palette that I'm using, you can go find it in the description below. It took me about a week to finally get a result that I'm happy with, but it's still not fully complete. So I decided to stop making assets for now and make some progress in importing the map I made into Unity. So far, my journey, although just the beginning, is very fun and interesting. I found many resources of information and motivation. One of which is an amazing YouTube channel called Vimlark, and what he does in his videos is make devlogs about games that he's creating or game jams that he's competing in. And I highly recommend his channel for anyone looking for some inspiration and motivation to start creating your own game. So this was my first devlog I've created, and it would help a lot if you left a comment letting me know your feedback on this video. If you enjoyed, please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon because it makes you notified every time I upload. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.